Alright, what's going on, guys? It's Desi. I'm going to bring you guys a quick educational videos on quote-unquote bad inverse fair value gaps. A lot of people will probably, take this trade in the future, or, maybe they took it today, I don't know, but this is something that I would want you guys to avoid with ES and NQ, and let's get right into it. So it's going to be from today's action, actually, right? So NQ swept its relative equal lows this morning. Pretty much consistent with the theme of this week was we came down in the morning, we swept our liquidity, we chopped around, we swept our New York low, and then we moved up, right? That was kind of like what was happening pretty much all week. And there's always this SMT at the lows that was occurring. So, in this example here, this is going to be our New York low. As you guys can see, NQ took it out today, right? NQ took our low out today. Here. ES did not take our low out. Okay, so a lot of people saw this SMT and were looking for displacement and for an inverse gap move back to the upside, and what they were using was this 1210 fair value gap here, which is valid, right? That's a good thing to do. They were using this 1210 here on NQ, like I said, which is also valid. Both indices have a fair value gap. Let's draw it out a little bit neater. Okay. So we have our SMT forming. We have our NQ's made a low, ES made a high. We have our fair value gap. Now we're just waiting for an inverse gap. Let's just play this. And here is where people ended up getting caught. They saw this setup here and took this inversion. I don't know who's they. I'm just going to assume someone out there today took this trade, targeting these relative equal highs up here, or whatever liquidity they were talking, and they targeted this. And if you guys can see it play out, they got stopped out in about 5-minute candles in about 15 minutes. Why is this a bad inversion gap? Well, first of all, the timing wasn't the best. It was during our lunch hour session, which, it's a little bit, iffy with lunch hour trading. But let's just say in a perfect world, this was, not during lunch hour. We had our SMT. We had our displacement. We had our inverse gap. Desi, why did this inverse not work? Let's take a look on ES. Where is a displacement on ES? There was no displacement. There was no candle close above this 5-minute inversion gap. When I'm looking for these SMT moves to play out, when I'm looking for the inversions to happen, I need both indices to flip these gaps inverse for the highest probability trade. And like I said, if they don't, I'm not even going to take the trade. That is not part of my system. Both indices need to be inverting a gap at the same time. In this case, it was a 5-minute. So you guys can see when NQ flipped this candle inverse at 1235, ES was still within this gap. And as you guys can see, ES never got the close of this gap, above this gap. And that's why this trade here did not work. Versus the one I'm going to go over right now, which is this one, right? Look at this. NQ tapped into his 4-hour bullish gap for the first time. We're going to get some type of bullish reaction. I was kind of playing with, I put this as a tape read play, which I ended up taking on a funded account, because I was talking about how, first of all, I always say the first time we tap into a gap, we're going to get a reaction. But you got to be consistent with what the week is giving you, right? What has the week been giving us? It's been giving us a dump off open, liquidity sweep of New York low, right? And then a move back up into the range. 1250 candle here. 1250 candle here. Our displacement of this inversion. I don't need SMT to take a trade, right? That's not my goal. I just look at it. If it's there, that's fine. I don't personally need it always. In this case, like I said, we got our move down. We got our displacement, right? 105. The timing is better as well. We got our displacement on ES and NQ here. Okay. So now, both gaps. I didn't even take this. I didn't even take this on NQ right after, as soon as this flipped inverse, because I need both indices to flip inverse. So I actually got, like I said, I got it now 1:10 p.m. Now both gaps have flipped inverse. We got our displacement. We're tapping into a higher time frame PDA rate for NQ, and now we could keep a consistent theme and tap back into our areas of buy side. Excuse me. This is NQ. I did not get into NQ. I got into ES on this move here. So you can mark out your areas of liquidity, and now this is a valid inversion gap versus the one I just covered on the loss that would quote unquote happen, and why you want to avoid it. And as you guys can see, this played out pretty nicely. We didn't run our entire move. We didn't retrace our entire move, but we still got a very good move on ES, and I think this delivered about like 12-15 points from where the tape read was. And NQ kind of did the same thing. I believe we have some equal highs on the 1 minute chart that we took out. I personally got out of my funded account trade after about like 6-7 points. I wasn't really trying to hold it for a long time. It's on ETF, which I have to get a max cap dot anyways on my move, and then my area of liquidity that I had was right here, which was around like 7 points, 8 points on ES. The main thing is I want you guys to know why this inversion was valid, right? This whole inversion setup was valid, and this one over here was not. This was not invalid. Yes, they got the displacement on NQ. We did not get any displacement on ES. No, so I need both candles to flip these gaps inverse, or both indices, excuse me, for me to actually take the trade. So as soon as I saw ES not, I would have taken this as well. As soon as I saw ES not take this fair value gap, I'm like, there's no reason for to get in a trade. This isn't my entry model. This isn't what I look for. And now I'll just keep waiting and wait till my setup forms. If it doesn't form, guess what? We don't take a trade. That's fine. If it does, we take a shot at it. So that is quote unquote a bad fair value gap. And I wanted to post this video because, like I said, I don't know if anyone took this, but if they did and they're wondering why it did not work out, this is why we did not, get that initial move to the upside, especially if you were just looking at NQ, because we never got our inverse gaps formed on both indices. So I'm going to keep it short and simple here. I hope this helps you guys avoid any future mistakes. With trading inversions, like I said, it's all about being patient and waiting for both candles or both indices to have candles that flip these gaps, these bearish gaps inverse to take our trade. And this goes for both downside and upside as well. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I wanted to get this video out, and I hope this is helpful for you guys.